Do not move to Topeka, Kansas until you watch this video. Before you think about making a move to our great city, here's 10 things that you might want to know.
After watching this video, you may still decide that Topeka, Kansas is the place for you. If so, or if you'd like some more information, reach out to us and we'd love to tell you more about our great city and help you decide if it's a fit for you and your family.
Reason number one, why not to move to Topeka, Kansas? This is not a big city. Even though our population's around 125,000, it still runs like a small town. You can pretty much run into people you know anywhere you go in town. That's personally one of my favorite things about this town, though. I'm from a bigger city, and so to do anything in that city is only a 45 to a 50-minute drive. It's because it's a small town.
Yeah. I moved out here from a small town in Idaho, and then before that, a small town in Pennsylvania. Both were roughly around 1,000 people in population. This is the biggest small town I've ever lived in. It also kind of runs like those little towns did. Everybody kind of knows each other. Every place you want to go is really quick to get to, and by no means does it have the big city lifestyle. So if you are from a bigger city and you're still looking for that type of atmosphere, this might not be the place for you. Number two, you're landlocked in a relatively flat state. As I said before, I came from Idaho and Pennsylvania before Kansas. Both have mountains, trees, rivers, and are pretty darn close to oceans. Here you don't really have that luxury. It's a mostly flat state, especially if you travel further west than Topeka. There's trees and everything else, but just not to the extent that I'm personally used to. If you really like oceans and beaches, I think the closest beach we have to us is around Galveston, Texas, and that's about 780 miles. If you really like mountains, depending on what you call mountains, the closest are about 3-4 hours away, or if you wanted to get into some bigger ones like Colorado or something like that, you're talking about a 9-hour drive.
Yeah, that's true. Here in Northeast Kansas, we do have more trees than Western Kansas. Western Kansas looks a lot like Eastern Colorado. It's real flat, a little bit more desolate. A little correction, you say mostly flat. We're on an incline all the way to Colorado. Just slight incline all the way to Colorado. So facts. So anyway, yes, that is true about the mountains and the ocean. You cannot see the ocean from Kansas at all for quite a ways. I used to live in Phoenix, Scottsdale area, and what was great about that community, the way it was positioned. You know, you had Tucson, and then up north you had Flagstaff. Both of those had mountains, not as significant as some of the Colorado mountains, but you know, that was within a half a day's drive. And then also, of course, you could drive to California to go to the beaches in about a half a day, and that was great, especially when my wife and I were young marrieds and didn't have kids and whatnot. We did a little bit more of that, but really not near as much as we thought we would. In fact, now that we've moved back to Kansas and we've been back here since 2010, we realize we don't really do any less of that than when we actually lived in an area that was within driving range. You know, we go to Colorado a couple times a year. We also go to the Ozarks, which are smaller mountains, but beautiful lakes and rivers and whatnot. There's still plenty of outdoor things to do here, especially if someone's a sportsman, like as in fishing and hunting. We take that trip to Colorado for about 8 or 9 hours a couple times a year. And while Western Kansas is desolate, it's certainly worth it when we get there. We just tend to plan those trips more. So we haven't suffered at all on that, and we are right in the middle. So in some ways, we're closer to some other things than some of the coastal cities.
And then you've got me, who's only from Kansas, never lived anywhere else. All I know is landlocked. But I'm more of a lake girl. There actually are beaches closer than Galveston. They're just on lakes. So anywho, there's access to tons of lakes and rivers, and you know, you can go on float trips and all sorts of things like that.
Float trips are fun.
That's more my jam. So anywho, just had to throw that out there.
Oh, you guys have a camper too, right?
No, but my in-laws do.
Same thing.
So I get to reap the benefits of that. But yes.
Reason number 3, the weather. The weather in Kansas is infamous. It can change on a dime. So we do have all 4 seasons. As people have said before, we got winter and road construction. That's 2 seasons. But no, we do have spring, summer, and fall and winter.
Yeah.
So the summer here can be pretty humid. Unlike some of the drier climates, you're going to wear your sweat for a while. So it's humid. If you have a hard time with humidity, this may not be the place for you.
It's not great for hair, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And that's really important to me, as you can see. So, however, it's not humid like Florida. It's not humid like parts of Texas. It's not humid like most of the South. So it's humid if you're coming from Phoenix or if you're coming from some other northern climates, but it's not as bad as it could be. Winter is something to get used to as well. Now, a lot of times we'll have some very mild winters. In fact, sometimes people visit here in winter and they're thinking, oh, this is quite nice. Mm-hmm. And then it's like the apocalypse happens the next time because we can have a very mild winter, or we could have an absolute blizzard or just freezing rain and ice, and you don't know, and that can all be within 48 hours of each other. So the great news is with our winter is if we get a big snowfall, it doesn't last because it does heat up quite a bit throughout the winter and thaw out, and we kind of go through some cycles in that. So spring is also a little erratic. You don't know quite when it's coming. It might happen in February or it might be in May. So now it's usually in that March and April time. We do get quite a bit of rain during that time. With that rain, you can, sometimes if you have a basement, there might be some flooding if things aren't quite like they should be with your foundation. So we do have some definite hardcore weather. Last week, I was mowing the lawn. I had one day to get it done that week, and I was trying to beat a rainstorm. Before it came in, I saw that it was coming, and I live on about 5 acres, and I was out there on my zero turn radius bad boy 60-inch deck mower trying to get it done, and I'm just going along trying to beat it, and it was doing great. It was about 80 degrees outside. No problem, clear as can be. Before you know it, starts raining, and then it starts raining harder. There's some lightning in the distance, and
still going?
I'm still going. I'm still going because I got only a little bit of time to get this done, and it was already a force because I couldn't get to it the previous
temperature's dropping.
Temperature's down to it dropped from 80 to 50, 60 in no time like that. Yeah. And then I'm going along, and then it starts hailing, about pea-sized hail. I'm still mowing, but I didn't mow much longer than that because that does not feel good. So that all happened in about a 30-minute time frame. So it can change pretty quickly in Topeka, in Kansas in general with weather. So we get all four seasons. So weather is a mixed bag.
Yeah, sometimes the weather, not only do we get the 4 seasons, but they get mixed up. Because my birthday's in May, and one year we got a foot of snow on May 2nd.
I remember that year.
Yeah, that was really weird.
You remember what year that was?
I want to say it was 2010, 2011.
Sounds
probably.
about right.
Yeah, but it was the first I'd ever seen that.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully the last too.
And you haven't seen that since. I don't recall
No.
snowing in May since then, but
No.
that was odd.
Reason number 4, not to move to Topeka, Kansas. This is my number 1 topic. There is no nightlife here. Most of Topeka, if they're anything like Becky, they're in bed by 9 o'clock or home, gearing up. You guys know that's accurate because if you try to text me after 9, I'm probably asleep. If you drive around the streets of Topeka 11 p.m. to midnight, you're likely to see not very many cars on the road at all. I'm not saying it's a ghost town, but you're not going to have, the downtown vibe going on.
Yeah. I got to spend some significant time in Atlanta, Georgia, Portland, Oregon, some Dallas, Houston, even Rome, Italy, just Chicago, a lot of big cities across the country. They all have some degree of nightlife or another. This does not. Topeka shuts down at night and goes to bed so they can wake up early and start their day. There just isn't a big scene here. And if you find it, let us know where it's at because we haven't found it yet.
Yeah. If it's here, we don't know where it's at. And, this is typical of a lot of Midwestern cities.
Yeah.
It's not that Topeka's anomaly on that. It's most Midwestern cities, they just don't have a preponderance of nightlife, especially smaller ones. And at 125,000 people proper, it's we fall right in line with that.
Yeah.
So there is probably somewhere, we just don't know where it's at, y'all.
Reason number 5, road construction. I know we've talked about this in other videos, but it's a solid addition to this one. If you decide to move out to Topeka, you just got to get used to the fact that you're going to constantly run into road construction. There's a lot of older parts of downtown that are getting ripped up and new asphalt's going in. That's a good thing. There's a lot of roads that are being patched. That's also a plus. A lot of freeways are getting worked on. I mean, it's all a net positive for our community, but it also means you're going to constantly be running into it. So that 15-minute factor that we always talk about, you can get most any place in Topeka in about 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's including the fact that you're going to be running into some road construction. There will at least be one detour in your day. That's a reality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's not going to change. It's like a lot of other Midwestern cities in that when you get all 4 seasons, it's hard on roads, especially winter. The water getting in, freezing, and then
the salt.
Yeah, the salt. So that's hard on roads. So they actually do repair the roads, which is fantastic. And yet that means detours.
Yeah.
But as mentioned, it's still, even with the detours, you can get around just about anywhere in town in 15 minutes. And who knows how quickly we could get places if we didn't have any road construction, because we've never seen no road construction. So it's a constant. But I think it's in proportion with other cities of similar size in the Midwest. So if that really bothers you, it's not going away.
Reason number 6 not to move to Topeka, Kansas: tornadoes. We really do have tornadoes. The last time a major tornado hit Topeka was in 1966. There were about 17 people killed, lots more injured. We did just have a pretty severe outbreak in the last, it's been all around the Midwest because we're in Tornado Alley. Pretty massive line of storms came through, and we did have a tornado actually touch down in North Topeka, which was pretty intimidating. The good news is
North Topeka is north of the river.
Yeah, the good news is I feel like our weathermen and the city of Topeka did a really good job of keeping everybody informed, notifying us, alarms, or the sirens were going off, but they were letting us know who that pertained to. So I was really, even though we deal with that and we're kind of used to it, I feel like our weather guys did a really good job of kind of keeping us informed So
I heard the sirens that time I was talking about mowing in the hail. That was that day.
Oh, okay.
So I heard those sirens. That's when I stopped mowing, was when, not from the hail, but from actually hearing the tornado siren.
So April 30th.
Yeah. So actually that night, my wife is on the school board, and she was doing some family interviews at the school, and some folks that were coming to meet her to do a family interview were dropping the kids off at their babysitter, and they saw a tornado in the distance. And like a true Kansan, they just dropped their kid at the babysitter, and they continued on to the interview at the school, and they saw another tornado off north in the distance as well. I'm actually pointing north right now. So they saw another tornado, not close by, but they saw that and continued again onto the school, and they all had the family interview at the school in the basement. And that's a very
safety first.
Safety first. So that's a very. In the meantime, I'm at home after mowing here, and I just cooked dinner in the basement for the kids, and we watched something, and it really. Tornadoes can be a very serious thing, but when you deal with something on a regular basis, you kind of learn how to handle things and what to do and what not to do. Hopefully not what not to do. Probably not mowing in the hail is not a good idea. Yeah. But other than that, you just kind of, it's part of it's part of life. You learn to deal with some of that. Most homes in Topeka have basements, so that's a great way to deal with that. And as a native Kansan, you kind of feel the weather too. You understand what's what. You kind of, this feels like it might be tornado weather.
Yeah.
And as she mentioned, the weather department does an excellent job. There is early warning systems. There's something called a tornado watch where they're looking for them. A tornado warning means one's been spotted.
Yeah.
And just knowing that stuff, being aware, it's relatively safe when it comes to that. I'm far more scared of earthquakes and wildfires than I am tornadoes.
Same.
So, yeah.
And as a non-native Kansan, I still want to see a tornado. So I will admit that we drove north on Highway 75, which goes across the river just into northern Kansas. And we drove for a bit trying to see if we could at least see one. We couldn't. We turned back around, and then we got down in town and just watched the whole storm cell. But we found out afterwards, about the same mile marker that we turned around is right about where that tornado came across 75. So we would have seen it had we waited.
Or
It just
been
would
taken
have been
away
a wild
by it.
experience.
We waited. So that's one of those things. Don't try this at home.
Yeah.
And he's not a professional.
Don't do it.
So, yeah, not a good idea. Almost every Kansan has told stories or about standing on the front porch. And
We were
looking
driving
for it.
back down into Topeka, and every house you can see, everybody's just standing outside looking
Yep,
for it.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's something to take serious, but not something to live in fear over.
Reason number 7, why not to move to Topeka? It's not really walkable. Now, what I mean by that is, if you come from a big city like New York or even downtown like Atlanta, Chicago, Sacramento, anything like that, you can find most all of your basic needs in one city block. Your grocer, your barber, place where you like to go with friends, your cafes, all of that. It's spread out here in Topeka. So, I mean, you can get to your local grocery store, your local cafe, your barber, and everything else in about 5 minutes. That's also driving down the road by about 40 miles an hour, 40, 45 miles an hour.
Mhm.
It's just not a city necessarily built for people who like to walk to all their destinations or even cycle. I mean, you can bike it for sure. You can even walk,
Some people do.
but it's spread out enough. It just doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense if that's your daily routine.
Well, and kind of like Chicago and
Yeah.
New York, like we don't have the train system.
Transit systems,
Is
yeah.
that what you were?
We
is that-
have a bus, but it's if people see you walking here, they think, oh, their car broke down. They don't think
Yeah.
they don't think you're doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
just like,
that's accurate.
so what's unfortunate here? Do I need to give them a ride?
Yeah.
But also going back to the weather, that's another reason why people don't
Yeah.
as much is, I mean, there is nice weather. People do walk here, but they tend to walk in neighborhoods or at Shawnee
Yeah.
Lake or Gage Park, places that are more set up for that. It's just not, you're not going to pop down to the bakery and walk and then go to, like you said, to a dog park or what have you. And that's not going to be within that proximity that you might be looking for as a walking town.
Or if you wanted to go to like one section of town and do like downtown Topeka Boulevard or
Yeah.
Wanamaker and
People
do all your
like that.
shopping just on that, even that's going to take time because it's all just spread out.
Yeah.
Again, we keep talking about how quick it is to get everywhere. We are talking about being inside a vehicle because it is a smaller Midwest town. Things are spread out. There's actually space out here for stuff. It's nice.
And it doesn't take you 20 minutes to find a parking space.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
because a lot of times people would drive, but it's just the parking's too tight in a lot of those places. So it's just it's different in that aspect. So yeah, you're not going to be walking as much to get stuff. There's plenty of places to walk for exercise and leisure and entertainment, all that stuff. It's just not a mode of transportation around here.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Reason number 8, not to move to Topeka, Kansas. Minimum wage. State of Kansas minimum wage is $7.25. The national average, when we were looking at just all the other states, was like 15. Kansas is quite a bit different. That being said, with 2 people working 40 hours a week at the $7.25 minimum wage, that brings them around that $35,000,
Yep.
right? Which is
Yeah.
what we said in our last video or one of our previous videos was what was needed to live in Topeka, Kansas because it's so affordable.
I mean, the reality is no one wants to live at minimum wage.
No.
If you're a household that does, or you're moving out here and that's just the work you decide to get for now, you got to remember your average rent is around that $8.50 mark. Fuel expenses are down, grocery expenses are down relatively from the rest of the country. So living off of minimum wage here is very different than trying to live off of minimum wage in another state, let alone a city.
That being said, though, I don't know of many places in town that pay minimum wage.
I don't either.
I mean, it's what it is.
There's
but, like,
competition in the marketplace here.
yeah.
It is so hard to find employees. Employers aren't able to pay minimum wage. I mean, it's just, I can't think of one. I know a lot of business owners and I know a lot of just people that are in, traditional work environments. I'm obviously a W-2 employee. I'm self-employed. But I don't know hardly anyone that is paying minimum wage or receiving it. That's not to say it doesn't exist, but the marketplace is meeting. People are meeting where the marketplace is at, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So, everything that's happening in the rest of the nation as far as wages rising is happening probably pretty much in equal proportion here.
Yeah.
I've got friends who own landscaping companies, construction companies, guys all over town who are doing more labor-intensive jobs.
Mhm.
I mean, their language is right off the bat. They got to start somewhere between 15 and 25 an hour if they know they're actually going to get anybody and retain them. I don't know a single friend or business owner that I can think of that's 725 is where we're going to start. It won't work.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, just the handyman that I'm paying, it's between $30 and $50 an hour. So
There you go.
Yeah.
So I mean, minimum wage out here is $7.25 an hour, but we have a competitive job market where people understand if they're going to hire a quality employee and be able to retain them, they've got to compete with pay.
Yeah, I don't know. I was looking at what is Chick-fil-A paying right now. I mean, it is.
They're
It was
up
up
there.
there.
It's like 10 or 12. Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
more than that. I shouldn't have even said because I don't know exactly what it is, but I remember hearing it and being astounded. I thought it was even higher than that. So yeah.
Which
So
again,
it's-
coming from a city might sound like, ooh, if that's not much. But you got to realize, again, your living expenses out here, very different. Matter of fact, if you're not sure what living expenses are like out here, we did create another video just on that subject. You'll be able to find it in our reel.
Reason number 9, no big sports teams. We don't have any big professional sports in Topeka, Kansas. Kansas in general, I think we tend to align more with our college teams. We pay more attention to Kansas University, KU, and Kansas State University, K-State. So that's one thing. We'll align a little bit more with that. But even though we don't have sports teams here in Topeka because it's a smaller city, Kansas City, Missouri is only an hour 15 away. So that's the home of the Kansas City Royals, our baseball team, and our Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Two times.
Yeah, just saying.
Back
just
to back.
saying.
I don't know.
In case you haven't heard, yeah. So with that, so we're pretty proud of that. It is within an hour 15. Technically, the stadium is in Missouri because there's a Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri. It's split there. So, but still, hour 15 away. And so that's kind of how things align. But we do pay a lot of attention to college sports and whatnot, more so than professional.
Growing up in Kansas City, I got very, very spoiled getting to go to Chiefs games and Royals games. And I moved to Topeka. I'm not really scared to drive, but it is kind of sad that I'm not like as close to the games. It doesn't keep me from going. But what's also exciting is around the Legends area and on the Kansas side, just right in Kansas City, they not only have the KC Current, which is the first professional women's stadium, just got complete. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I've
never been there, but
my husband and daughter and I went to a game, and we actually got to sign one of the beams that went into the building of the new stadium. Yeah. And then Sporting KC is also right there.
That is huge, man. Everyone loves Sporting KC.
Yeah, it's such a fun atmosphere. So while it's sad that Topeka doesn't have any here local, luckily we're close enough that going to a Chiefs game, going to a Royals game, and any of those things, or NASCAR. That's right next to Sporting is a NASCAR.
Yeah.
And the only thing between you and Kansas City is I-70, and you get to do about 70 miles an hour all the way there.
Nope, 75
miles an hour all the way there,
or 83
or 75. So I mean, if you want to travel for sports, it's a quick trip. But yeah, we don't have any sports teams here of any kind.
Not so much. But we love college, and we love the Chiefs. We love the Royals. So. Yeah, if you're coming from another place and you have your sports team favorite, just beware. Especially if you're a Patriots fan.
Reason number 10 why you might not want to move to Topeka. Flights in and out of Topeka are scarce and expensive. So we have Forbes Field and Billard Airport. Both are relatively smaller and typically are used for private jets, small planes, and things of that nature. There isn't a lot of commercial flights in and out of Topeka. Now, there are some.
Forbes Field's a military base too.
Yeah, and they opened it up to commercial, but still, again, on a very limited basis. And then prices are typically a lot higher. So if you're someone who needs to travel or likes to travel a lot, or if work requires you to be out and about quite a bit, you're going to have to get used to taking a commute out to Kansas City, Missouri, where we have KCMO, our airport out there. Now that is a hub for the rest of the country. It's a really great airport. They just updated they just updated their terminal. It looks fantastic.
Again, it's an hour 15 away.
Exactly. That's something you have to factor in, though, when you're thinking if you have to fly regularly, you've got to factor in at least 2.5 hours on your commute with every single trip there and back. That's just a reality.
Yeah. There and back, yeah. Okay. I will say, I used to, when I lived in Phoenix, I didn't live far from Sky Harbor Airport. Great airport, by the way. But again, just how long it took to get through lines, and Kansas City Airport so much smaller and efficient, very efficient. I don't know that it took any more time. There was more drive time because 25, 30 minutes to get to Sky Harbor from where we were. But hour 20 is what it takes. And also there's a lot of car services that run back and forth pretty frequently. So if you don't want to leave your car there, I'm friends with someone who owns a car service, and there's several others as well. And that's real convenient. I've never flown out of Forbes Field. Have you?
Never.
I've never flown out, but my previous job, I did pick up the owner of the company
More
from Billard and from Forbes. I will say, though, one of my favorite things about Forbes is when KU wins the national championship, they fly the entire team back to Forbes. So that's cool. Pretty exciting because you get to go and welcome the team back, which is, if you're a sports fan, it's exciting.
Yeah, I've flown out of Billard before on a private flight, but I've never actually flown out of Forbes. And it is true. I mean, you can choose that option, but it's expensive to do it. And Kansas City, it's not that far away. Also, Manhattan has an airport as well, and that's about 45 minutes away. Sometimes, not always, sometimes they're actually a little bit more affordable as well on certain locations. So it's not a bad situation with the airport at all. Yet we want you to know, because if you want to live right next to an airport, an international airport, Topeka's not your place.
No.
But
if you got to travel regularly for work, or you're someone that likes to go on several vacations a year, you're going to travel to the airport. It's just a reality.
Yep. Thanks so much for watching this video. We hope that you found it informative and helpful. If you have any concerns, anything you want some more explanation about, please reach out to us. Our information's on the screen. Please also remember to like and subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you.
See you guys.
Later.